It's great to be back in this format. Marcus Jönsson is my name. I'm the CEO of I-Tech, and I soon have a 1-year anniversary. Actually, I joined in September last year, and it's been a fantastic journey so far. So we start this morning by taking biotechnology out to sea, essentially. So out of the lab and into some of the harshest environment that we have on this planet. So what if 1/3 of the global shipping fleet were using 36% more fuel than necessary, even just for one day? What would that mean for cost and emissions of CO2? That's essentially one of the key challenges that I-Tech is addressing. So if we look at maritime shipping, here are 3 examples of the challenges that are facing the maritime world. So first one being the emission of CO2. IMO has taken on the challenge to make global shipping carbon neutral by 2050. And there are some good milestones on the way as well. And of course, we know that renewable fuel is part of that solution, but also efficiency gains are really important as we go on this journey towards carbon neutrality. The second topic is the transfer of invasive species. Every summer there is news of new exotic fishes or plant lives turning up in our coastal areas, at least in Sweden, but also across Europe. And actually, the fouling on the ship's hull is the #1 source of transfer of invasive species. So EU is monitoring this, and they estimate about 41% of these species come from ships that are visiting the ports and harbors and have then aquatic life growing on the underside of the ship. So this is an increasingly important area, and also where IMO is putting focus on biofouling management and sort of new standards for shipping going forward. And then the last point is, of course, the emissions to water, so release of chemical substances. So anti-fouling technology, historically, there has been sort of controversies, of course, with toxic chemicals leaching out to the oceans and sort of impacting marine life really negatively. So it is a focus area. So really quickly then, biofouling management is actually been identified by IMO as one of the key challenges to overcome on the journey to carbon neutrality. When aquatic species grows on the ship hulls, this increases the friction between the ship hull and the water, and then drastically increasing the fuel consumption. So it is one key area to focus on. Of course, ship design, improved propellers, and a lot of sort of efficiency gains are also part of the solution. But often, I would say, having a clean hull is somewhat overlooked in terms of the fuel efficiency gains that you can get. So the market that I-Tech is operating in then is, you could say, anti-fouling coatings. So that part of the coating of a ship that is underwater. So not what is above water, but underwater, right? And also then we have an additive that goes into the paint to help to prevent growth of aquatic organisms. This is what we estimate somewhere between a $300 to $500 million opportunity for these efficient additives that help to prevent fouling. There are about 2,000 new ships built every year, and there are 20,000 dry docking events. So essentially, ships have to go into regular inspection and dry docking every 50 years typically. And since we have a global fleet of over 100,000 ships, this is a very steady business. They have to come in for maintenance. They have to come in to refresh the paint. So new build and dry dock. We estimate our sales today to be 60% into new vessels and 40% into dry dock. So naturally, dry docking business is where we need to grow in the future. In the bottom, it's maybe a little bit difficult to see here, but sort of where are ships being built and serviced? Asia is today dominating. So Europe has almost given up on its historical shipping industry, right? But we still represent, at least for the dry docking, a quite important part. But China is #1, followed by Japan and Korea. So these are the key markets for shipbuilding and ship services. So I-Tech solution is actually, here's the biotechnology link. It is a pharmaceutical that is used as a sedative for animals and humans today. But then scientists at Gothenburg University and Chalmers discovered this pharmaceutical has the opposite effect on the barnacle larvae. Instead of being sedated and going to sleep, they become temporarily hyperactive. And this prevents them actually from settling onto the surface. And barnacles is a really, really big challenge for shipping, because once they settle on the ship, it's really hard to remove them. They form really hard crustaceous shells that, if you try to remove them, actually damages the paint. So to be able to prevent this is really a key for shipping. So I-Tech's technology is, as we say, they're non-lethal. It's a temporary effect for the barnacle larvae. And you need it at really, really low dosages. So classical antifouling coatings contain between 30 and 50% cuprous oxide, typically, to prevent barnacles and other species from settling on the ship hulls. With 0.1% of Selektope than iTox solutions, you have actually better barnacle protection than with all this copper. So coming back also to the release of chemicals to the ocean, this is a much, much more efficient solution that was in the market. So I-Tech has been commercial, you could say, since 2015. So by now we have actually built up a library of cases to prove the value. What you're seeing here is the side of a ship, a Japanese coastal ship that has pretty low activity level. And it has had one patch, you could say, painted with the same coating as the rest of the ship, but just adding Selektope. So here you see some of the effects of preventing barnacles sort of in real life. But of course, you know, what this means for operations for the ship owner, that is what is important. And we have been able to demonstrate and reduced fuel usage over a 5-year dry docking cycle. We also had the great advantage this year to partner up with Safina, who are coating advisors to ship owners. And we studied over 700 ships then in their database coming into dry dock. And that's actually where this number comes from that I showed you in the beginning. More than 1/3 of all ships have more than 10% of their underwater area covered with barnacles. That means actually the fuel consumption is up to 40% higher to have the same speed through water. So it is a prevalent issue for the shipping community. And of course, we try to raise the awareness of this, and as we try to get our solutions into more and more paint products. So I-Tech today, we are focusing then on the marketing and sales to the global paint companies. Our almost entire market is covered by approximately 10 customers, which are mainly the global paint manufacturers. So we have the unique technology, IP protected. We have invested in formulation know-how, which is key actually to be able to speak eye to eye with the technical people working at our customers to actually get them to formulate Selektope into their solutions. We are very asset light, so we work with the sophisticated production partners. Since this is a pharmaceutical, it requires some key competences also in terms of production. So we are focusing then on the innovation, formulation, technical support, and marketing and sales. Penetration is still quite low. We estimate to be on around 3,000 ships today out of a global fleet of more than 110,000 commercial vessels. We are not counting, of course, all the leisure crafts that are in the world, which is an additional market as well. So if you look at this, the spread of our sales, we have 0% sales in Sweden, 1% sales in Europe in the first half this year. So you see 99% in Asia, where Korea, Japan, and China really are dominating that. And of course, that relates to where shipbuilding and ship maintenance is. And if you paid attention to the market size of China, you know that China is also a growth market for us going forward. So I-Tech has had a very nice development since the IPO. So we are on First North in Stockholm, Nasdaq, since 2018, and then have had a really nice growth journey, and of course also improve the profitability and the financial position of the company. So we're really now in a growth phase and penetrating the market, which is great to see. So looking at our business then, going forward, there has definitely been turbulence this year in shipping and trade and so on. That's something especially we saw in Q2 as well. People were hesitant to make decisions. That is important sort of for ordering a new ship, for instance, which is a major financial undertaking. Last year was a boom, you could say, in terms of number of orders of new ships, and that's completely dropped in the start of this year when we have all the turbulence from the White House, etc., on trading, etc., but has recovered a little bit since then. We are looking forward to new customer product launches and also working on our operational efficiency and advocacy linked to regulation, which is a key area also for our type of technology. All right, that was the presentation. Looking forward to your questions in the audience.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Do we have any questions? Yeah, Thomas.
It will be for a ship owner to use your product compared not to, in percentage wise.
Yeah. So how much more expensive is our solutions to traditional technology? As always, the answer is it depends. So some customers, they take the formulation approach to just add our solution on top. And then typically you would have to add $3 to $4 per liter of paint that you add to your ship. There is the possibility, of course, to make completely new paints cheaper with our solution, because you can go away from copper. You can reduce that significantly and replace the effect of the copper with Selektope and other co-biocides. So you can also make cheaper products if that's your way to go forward.
Okay, you had a list of major paint providers, so to say. Are all those your customers?
Actually, 6 out of what we call the 9 majors, they are our active customers. We also signed a new customer in the beginning of this year, so number 7. We signed a new supply and license agreement, and we're looking forward then to their product launches this year. So to be able to say now is 7 out of 9. So most of them are active, yes.
Okay, I guess this market is sort of quite heavily regulated. How does that affect your company?
Well, time to market. It's a little bit more similar to, I think, medical device from that sense, right? It's not like traditional specialty chemicals. So the innovation with Selektope happened around the year 2000, right? I think we got registration in Europe 2008. But actually, Europe is a really difficult market from a regulatory standpoint. So there are no end products that has a pan-European approval today. And that's simply because the regulation in EU does not work when it comes to this type of products. Okay. So yeah, it is a long time to market regulatory-wise, also for biocides.
Even in Europe, so it's heavily regulated on each market then?
Yes.
Okay.
But not all markets have such heavy regulations. But typically Europe, Korea, Japan, US, and then
What's the major challenges for a company like I-Tech? Is that the macro environment, or is it conservative buyers, or regulation maybe, or could you elaborate a little bit?
Innovation, inertia, and sort of risk management. If you have an anti-fouling coating that works, why why make it better? It works good enough, right? So because for our customers it's a big risk to launch a new product. There's a lot of value involved, right? And you can get sort of fined from the ship owner if you release a product that's not really delivering on your marketing claims, right? So it is inertia.
Yeah. You had some measures for profitability. How is the gross margin for a product like this?
Our gross margin actually has strengthened. It has been a focus for us, and we reported now in Q2, I believe, 58% gross margin. Okay. And our intention is to keep working on that as well.
Yeah. You talked about the patent. How long is your technology sort of secure?
The original patent for Selektope, as I mentioned, the innovation happened around the year 2000, has actually expired. But we have a sort of a continuous strategy to sort of take new additional IP. So we have both production process IP and formulation IP that sort of extends, well into 2030 and 2035. And then also actually since last year, new IP on the way in then to continue strengthen the protection.
With President Trump, and I think also in Europe, we are talking a lot about producing ships also locally now again. Have you seen anything, an increased sort of demand for that, or is it just the politicians?
Well, let's see how sort of pervasive and how much stamina they will have in this policy. I think the Koreans definitely popped the number of champagne bottles when Trump said, I'm going to penalize Chinese shipbuilding, because it actually meant a boost for Korean and Japanese business short term. If you want to go back into shipbuilding for US, it's many years. It's like a 20-year play if you want to go back, because they have simply scaled back so much. It would take them a really long time.
Marcus, time flies. We don't have that much time. If you follow I-Tech, what should we look for? I mean, in the next 6 months or so.
I think you should be looking out for new product launches and hopefully then more announcements on our business development pipeline, which is exciting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.